Okay, everybody, welcome to episode 8 of Q&A Fridays. We've got a bunch of cool questions lined up this week. We're super excited about it. And of course, you've got your host, Chandler, and
the Dave Picardi.
We're super excited to be here. Today's questions, let's just look at a quick overview of what we have going on. So we've got, how do you start podcasting? Podcasting's super popular, so that was a good question. How do you organize a marketing calendar? How do you organize your marketing meetings? And then if we have some time, we'll go into the question of the century for the affiliate owners, which is, do you need to rebrand to be successful in the affiliate market? And that's the name of the game. So I guess we can just shut the show down now. I'll see you later, Dave.
I think so. And you know what I think is even more important is I just learned what a bunch is. 4.
What is a bunch?
4. You said we had a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Said 4, so a bunch equals
yeah, exactly.
4.
A bunch equals learning. 4. And then if you say a bunch of crunch, done. That's 5. Yeah.
There you go. I can't believe how much I've learned from doing the show.
And then it's like math too. If you say a bunch, that's doubling it, so that's 8.
8. Yep. See how?
Yeah. So it's all about how well you can do the bunch math.
That's right. So, yeah, really cool questions. These are like monster questions, actually. I'm wondering if we have time for all this.
Yeah, we probably won't.
I think we'll make
time or we'll finish next week. We'll keep everybody on the cliffhanger.
That's right. So,
let's get started. Question 1, how do you start? How do you start podcasting? So basically, it's not really that difficult to set up or start a podcast. The hardest part is just, I think people start it and then they're not consistent. So what you want to do is you want to set up like a list of episodes with your podcast. What are you going to talk about? What is your passion and how can you display that? And so you need to decide a couple of things. Once you get that list together, ideally you'd be doing a podcast like once a week, but I know that's not feasible for most people. So set yourself up with like every 2 weeks or a once a month podcast. Then once you have your podcast set up with like 20 different episodes, you can do, you have a once a week or a once a month calendar and you literally put it into your calendar so you actually do it. Then you need to decide, can I do this on my own? If you can, then you just talk by yourself during the whole thing, which isn't as fun. Conversational tones and conversational aspects are a lot more fun for people to listen to. So I'd recommend either finding guests to be on every episode or finding a co-host to stand there and do the podcast with you, because that makes it more entertaining and it allows you to be engaging and go back and forth. And so that's like step 1 to setting up your podcast.
The good old step 1. So I have a question. And I think all of our viewers and listeners want to know, how do you do the first podcast, the first episode? What is that?
Yeah, so the first episode, what I like to do, and I remember way back, we did a first couple episodes as like a couple Q&As, but I think the way you should start is your first episode should be you talking about your story, and the reason why you're doing this. So that way you can set the audience up for the expectations to move forward and the expectations of the podcast to follow. So open it up like, hey guys, this is a brand new podcast. This is what I'm calling it. This is why I'm doing this. This is the direction it's headed. I'm always looking for questions. And you kind of just talk about you and your story during that first episode.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's where people probably have the hardest time is, it's like, I got all this stuff in my head, this whole thing I want to talk about. And it's really hard for them to get organized the very first time to do it. Would you ever recommend anybody is really struggling with that to like open it up with a guest that's asking them about it so they can have some sort of conversation?
Yeah, I think if
you
have a co-host, you've decided you want to be on the podcast with you, then your co-host should be on that first episode at the same time. So either that person, if it's all about you, that person can interview you, or if it's about both of you, and if it's co-host probably is about both of you, then you can interview each other and have a pretty cool, like organized setup at the beginning. And I think that's probably the best way to do it. And then as you go on, you can decide, do I want to bring guests on? Do I want to make it all Q&A? If you are going the Q&A route, you need a really big audience to keep garnering a lot of questions, and you have to be consistent, persistent in asking those questions. So don't think you can just start Q&A and you're magically get 50 questions. You have to actually pull those out of people, and you have to have a big following to get those people to actually ask you anything.
That's right. Like, so we're lucky enough, we're enough people listening to us that we had a bunch of questions today.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that big audience, then, you're going to have to come up with questions on your own if you're doing some sort of Q&A segment. So I think it's, what's your podcast going to be about, I think matters. Like, is it something where it is interactive, right? Where you can interview people, or is it a topic that is just constant information that's coming out of you to people? Because we listen to a lot of podcasts, and sometimes it's just one person going on for an hour about stuff, right? I know the best ones I listen to have multiple people on them.
Yeah, exactly. And then just moving forward, I think the hardest part for most people is that consistency aspect. So just to finalize the podcast talk, it's get it started, get who you're going to be on the podcast, decide how you're going to do it, and then be consistent with it. Because most people, I think a lot of people will start their podcast and then they won't continue ever again. So that's probably the hardest part. And then I guess the technical aspect behind running your podcast is you have to decide who you want to host it. And there's a bunch of different places that can host. I think the most popular is like Libsyn, which is really good because you just set your podcast up, you have a little page, and you can push it to all the different channels that you want it to go to. I'm a big fan of SoundCloud. So we use SoundCloud for ours and a bunch of the other ones we use. And all you have to do is set it up on the SoundCloud account, get the artwork, which is the most difficult part because iTunes is super picky. Once you get the artwork set up, then you just share the feed to iTunes, and you share the feed to Google, and you share the feed to anywhere else you want to go. And then you have your feed that automatically pushes out when you upload it onto one piece and one platform. And I always find that the best pieces of audio to use for podcasting are the WAV file, the WAV, gives the highest quality, but it's bulky. Or you can use the good old-fashioned MP3, but I think you get better quality out of the waves. And I guess the last thing is if you're doing this on the internet, you have to remember that your connection is not always going to be there. So you have to set yourself up for programs and platforms to help you get good sound quality, even if the internet connection cuts out. So like we use a program called Zencaster that we've been working with for a while, and it records on each person's computer. So that way it doesn't depend on the internet for the sound.
Yeah, and we go live so often that we're always running into technical difficulties, and so having that backup audio file, because we've put out some pretty good shows, and sometimes just because of connectivity, one of us sounds like a robot and different things. So even if some of the material turns out no good because you're on all the time, having that backup through something like Zencaster is so important because at the end of the day, you at least save the audio file for your podcast.
Exactly. And you don't have Zencaster is like $20 a month. So it's not like it's going to break the bank. If you really want to go free, just use like GarageBand while you do the podcast and it'll record everything.
That's right.
I think that's about enough for podcasting.
I think we pretty much nailed it.
Yeah, that was great.
You did really good on that, Chan.
Don't mess around.
Very good. You must have studied all night to talk about
Gosh,
that.
I did. And I manage what do we manage? I have like 9 podcasts we manage right now.
I know.
Podcasting ninjas.
I know. And it seems like anytime we have a new client that has a good sized business that's launching, we end up on doing that podcast as well.
It's true.
It's pretty cool.
Which is awesome. So what's our next question is, how do you organize your marketing calendar? So I think when you're trying to organize your marketing calendar, you have to use the phases of strategic planning we talked about. So discovery, planning, execution, post-execution analysis. But it really comes down to, like we talk about, what am I going to produce? Who's going to produce it? And then once we get that done and we interview everybody and have good pieces coming out, we put it into a calendar. Okay, so Mondays are Minute with George. Tuesdays are Conversations with Joe Michael. Wednesdays are whatever, Thursdays are this, all the way from Monday through Sunday. Every single piece is mapped out and organized. And you can either put this on like an Excel spreadsheet. You can put this on Trello is actually pretty cool for this because you can put everybody's segment up, and you can put, like on Trello, you can put to be completed, and then everybody's segments, when they complete it, they move their little card over to their segment. And then you have a good little system so they're organized with it. At our gym, we actually, and for what we do, we actually put we have Slack, and we have a social channel on Slack, and every once a week, everybody's piece is updated onto what they need to produce, and then everybody uploads it to there. That works pretty well for like the smaller business operation.
I think the absolute key to that is pick something. Don't jump around platforms because, usually there's so many good platforms out there that if you want to track and organize this, it's not the platform that's usually the problem. It's the people not implementing, right? So pick something, figure out how it's going to work for you and the team, and just make it happen every week. It is important, and it has to happen.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not organized and you don't have it mapped out and planned, then it's not going to get done. And it happens to everybody. Sometimes you'll fall off and then nobody does anything. And it's not that it's your team's fault. It's your fault for not keeping them organized and putting them in a place to where they're always working in a way they need to work, because your team is in, like we talked about, the employee mindset, and they need to be told what to do. They need to be shown what to do, and they need to be reminded to do it. And if you fail to do that, then you failed your team.
That's right. I'm a big team failure.
Oh, man.
I admit that. Oh, Chan, this whole episode, I see what's going on here. The whole episode's about talking to me about my failure.
How did that happen?
What is going on here?
What is up with this?
Well, the good news is I'm going to be able to call my mother tonight and tell her that everything is okay because you've taken over her
perfect.
role.
Hey, why don't you bring her on? I'll co-host with her.
That would actually, you know what's funny is I think you'd love that. should be a lot of fun for you.
We'll bring her on next week.
Perfect. She'll probably be a wealth of knowledge.
I'm so excited for this one. It was like that one time at Sprout Social when she called me on the phone.
Yeah, I don't know why my mom called you. It was weird. But I let it happen. So
it was
half
organic.
my fault. It's very organic.
All right. So the next question we got is how do you organize your marketing meetings? Do you want to start this one, Dave?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of meetings, and I think that one is you organize them around what works for your team. And maybe it doesn't work the same every week. Everybody, especially in the service-based industry, it's a very fluid schedule. So just having a dedicated one, everybody like knowing and committing to there needs to be a marketing meeting. And then making sure that before a week even happens, it's a set time and everybody has to be there. And then you need to be prepared for it. So, ultimately it's, what are we going to talk about? It's all about kind of reviewing your content and making sure that you're improving on your content and the direction and analyze numbers and all that. So be prepared for the meeting is so important. So that'd be my my initial lob ball information out. So what do you think, Chan? After being prepared, what else would happen in a meeting?
Yeah, so the way we organize it is what we'll do is we'll come in, like you're saying, we'll be prepared. We'll have everything together that we want to talk about. And then when you get into the meeting, what we normally do is we'll open it up with like, hey guys, how's everything going? We'll get people talking and asking questions and saying like, I like my piece or my piece sucks or I don't like doing this. And then we go back and forth and work on solutions to things that people might not like or might not be happy with or questions they have about what's going on. Because the more we can educate them right there and the more we can give them information to help them, the less likely they're going to get frustrated and not want to do it. Then it goes into, okay, here's everything we produced. Here's what's working. Here's what's going on. Here's what I want to add to it, or here's what I want to take away from it. And then after that, we ask them, like, does anybody have any questions? Are you guys sure? Then we go over what everybody produced, what the results look like after we talk about the things we talked about before. And then once that's organized, it's usually not too long of a meeting. It's like 15 or 20 minutes we do maybe. And then after that, we'll do like a Facebook Live segment with everybody. And so I think the key with the marketing meetings is it's getting your team together, getting them talking about their frustrations, getting them talking about what they like, and then you talking about what's working, what's not working. And then you get to talk about pivot shifting and adjusting. And then I think at the end, you wrap it up and you tell everybody like, hey, I'm really pumped that you guys are doing this. You guys are doing a great job with it. Remember, this is the reason why we're doing it. And so you always have to remind your team of the reason why, because they'll forget and they'll just see it as meaningless, tedious work. And so if you can do that, they're always going to be rallied behind you and they're always going to be pumped about it. And then after the meeting, I'll go on Slack, or I'll have Steph go on Slack, especially in the gym, and do like a little wrap up. So this is what we talked about. This is what we want to accomplish. This is where we need to be headed. So that way everybody's reminded on there as well.
Yeah. So communication, and also, the key is engagement. And if you come prepared and you have everything and it's consistent, so everybody knows what to expect and kind of how the flow is going to go with the meeting, having them talk about what they've done, what they're planning to do, what they're struggling with, what they're excelling at, all those things. They need to, make sure. Something that I've found over the years is, any meetings that, it's me up front lecturing and breaking down and everybody sitting there, they're not as productive because people aren't engaged in those types of meetings and they leave and it doesn't seem like it's more of a, here's what we're covering and it's your turn, go. Right now, people need to actually interact and they need to be prepared as well. Because then it leads to some good stuff where if they're actually interacting and prepared, we can then fill in the blanks, right? So it's like, okay, so my job is to educate on why we're doing it and how it works and kind of fill in the blanks so that every meeting they get more educated and understand even better and they're able to produce and do a better job. Yeah, that's huge.
The more you communicate, the more you get them talking back and forth, the more likely it is you're going to know what they're thinking and the more likely it is you're going to be able to keep everybody excited about it. So that's huge. And it's like you're saying too, it's all about communication. So how much can you get your team talking? It shouldn't just be you talking up front the whole time. You can talk about, you need to generate the conversation, have the preparation and get it moving. And then they can talk back and forth and they can work on things. And that's how you develop new ideas and new strategies. And you get the team really, really thinking about what's going on. And you get them actually comfortable with saying, maybe we should try this. What do you guys think? And then everybody goes back and forth with it. And that's how you produce higher level efficiency processes. So you could even tell your team, hey, once a week, I'm going to pick one of you, and it's your responsibility to find what one thing we're doing and make it better. It can be the smallest thing or the largest thing in our marketing or in the regular business. And then one person does it, and then each week another person does it. And then you have this process efficiency mindset that you're always using to improve what you're doing.
Yeah, we actually talked about it. We had a meeting today, and we were talking about how, the core concept, whatever your mission statement is and vision is, these are the things that are constant in your business. And the tools and the strategies that you're implementing, right, in your processes, all they are, they're pieces and tools to accomplish, right, this overall client experience that you're trying to deliver. So you should constantly be reassessing that. It shouldn't be like, this is just what we do. Even if something works well, you're always trying to improve it. So over time, with the team communicating about the marketing content and how you're producing it, it should get better and better and evolve over time. So the things you're doing now, we have a general template that we have for a calendar. That's just a general template. So, don't just take that forever. It's not going to work forever. It needs to be something where what's working this month might not work next month. As you analyze and learn, maybe it's every fall, this is what we do for content. Before these types of events, this is what we do for content. So it might be all the time. But if you're not having good meetings and great exchange of ideas and exchange of kind of analysis, it doesn't evolve like that, and you don't maximize it, and it's kind of like an amateur game.
Yeah, exactly. So always be improving processes, always be communicating, and always be displaying that why to everybody, and you'll win, and they'll follow you, and they'll want to do what you're doing. It'll be exciting.
For the win.
Okay, last question
good.
That we have is, and this one might be its own episode. It's, do you need to rebrand to be successful in the affiliate market? So we work with a lot of gyms, and in the gym market, especially CrossFit land, we find that the solution to failure is often rebranding and changing your name. And it's this theory that because CrossFit is seemingly so saturated with affiliates all over the place, that if you change the name on your door, people are magically just going to notice you, and you're going to be different.
That's what the difference is, right? It's the name on the door, right? So, yeah, why would just the name? What's that got to do with who you are and your brand and your service and how you're changing lives, right?
Yeah,
that's the key.
So I think the key is in this, when you look at it, what's happening in the affiliate world is a lot of affiliates opened up businesses and they weren't necessarily in the business mindset, and they weren't ready to essentially build out what they needed to do. They didn't build out brand. They didn't build out culture. They didn't build out identity. They didn't have systems to make things work and function. And what we're seeing now, because there's so many affiliates all over the place, is not a lot of them are good at or understand how to differentiate themselves. And you can differentiate yourselves in pretty fairly easily. And it does take a lot of work and a lot of buildup, but you can actually build this. And this is what we do with a lot of people. But what it takes actually building that brand and building that culture and building that identity inside your affiliate and showcasing who the people are in there. Because you can be, and this is a simple answer to the question, you can be CrossFit XYZ and still win. You don't have to rebrand. It's not necessary.
I love that place. I love CrossFit XYZ.
It's so nice. And when we look at it, you just have to be CrossFit X, and CrossFit XYZ needs to showcase who it is, who the coaches are, who the owners are, who the people inside the gym are, the customers, do you have a little dog running around the gym? I know some people say you shouldn't have dogs, but whatever. So what you need to do is look at that.
Whatever.
How do I showcase who I am and how do I display that to my community? And then what's going to happen is they're going to notice CrossFit XYZ in comparison to CrossFit YZX. And you're going to create that differentiation around who you are. And it's going to build that brand. It's going to build that culture. And it's going to build that identity to a level to where you're going to be an successful affiliate just because people understand who you are and they know your story.
Right. And so, long story short, you don't need to rebrand. But you can rebrand, right? But what'll happen is whether or not you stay the same name you have and think that your problem is the brand name, which it's not, or you rebrand as something different, you still have to do the same exact process of identifying your brand and actually doing all the hard work behind the scenes to make it actually work, right? And if you don't do that and you rebrand, all you are is dead in the water because now you have nothing. Right? You have to start from zero and actually know what you're doing to win. And we see that a lot too. It's not as simple as changing the name on the door. And if you were doing all the right behavior and all the right work, you wouldn't even have to change your name.
Yeah, that's a good point. You just had there. What we look at is the thought process is, oh, because this market's saturated, I should change my name and go into another saturated market, which is the entire fitness industry. And if you play it right, you can use the name and the conglomerate that is CrossFit to build your brand and to build your name in the right way. You just need to understand that you have to build brand, you have to build identity. You can't depend on challenges to grow your business. You have to build culture and you have to showcase to people what makes your affiliate special and what makes your affiliate different. And if you can't do that as a CrossFit affiliate and you rebrand, now all you have to do is you have to showcase to the entire fitness industry why you're different and why you're doing things and who you are. And so all you did was taking yourself from a highly niche market in CrossFit world, even though it's rather big now, and moved yourself into the overall massive fitness world. And now you have to differentiate amongst all these other businesses with millions of dollars in ad budgets and all these like Orange Theory Fitness and Zumba and all these giant things. But you could have just utilized the name you pay for, the CrossFit name, to build your brand and to build your brand to a level to where it's highly successful, utilizing your own brand and your own identity along with their massive marketing potential.
Right. So it's it's not as simple as rebrand. And so, I think are we planning on doing a show Monday on this, Chan, like a whole show?
Yeah. So if you guys are tuning in, jump on Monday and we're going to do an entire episode devoted to whether or not you should rebrand and more of our thoughts on the rebranding process. And you already know that we don't really think you need to rebrand, but we'll go more in depth as to why and how you can build your successful affiliate up and keep the CrossFit name, and why rebranding isn't going to do anything but put a Band-Aid on a problem. And that Band-Aid is going to get ripped off real quick when you have to compete with all 975,000 personal trainers in your community.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot. So we have personal experience with all this. So with the rebrand and everything. So it's going to be really cool. We can hopefully talk about the gym that I own, which we did rebrand. And it'd be great I can't wait to share that story.
Exciting. So if you guys want to tune in on that, tune in. We'll go live about 10 a.m. on Monday. We'll put that up. It'll go on the podcast the next day. If you have questions about anything we talked about today, make sure you post them in the comments or shoot us an email, hello@ootcmedia.com. And
I love it. That's it, guys. This was a great Q&A. Definitely glad we jumped on this one, and I'm really looking forward to Mondays.
Yeah.
episode. So hopefully you guys are all here.
We got another really special podcast coming out on Monday. We were guests on as well that I'm pumped about.
Are we going to tell them, or are we just going to wait? Yeah. Let's wait. Let's have it be a surprise.
Because it was a good episode. I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm really excited.
So tune in Mondays for our own, and we got a really big one coming out that we were guests on. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Remember, if you have questions, post them in the comments. We'll go back and forth. We love interacting, and that's all she wrote. That is it.
That is it.
See ya.